like being at a rave, isn't it? Hello, everyone, and welcome to another thought-provoking episode of Full Throttle here on Unprecedented TV. And that's where we dive head-on into the challenges facing British drivers and much more beyond. I'm Paul Naylor, Communications Director for the Alliance of British Drivers, and today we'll be talking with Howard Cox, Principal of FairFuelUK.
And I'm Brian Gregory, Policy Director of the Alliance of British Drivers. Howard Cox has for many years fought the road users' corner by campaigning to keep regressive taxation of road fuels under control, and also promoting additives that reduce the already very low impact of internal combustion engine vehicles even further, while simultaneously delivering better fuel economy. Howard's become deeply involved in the fuel taxation issue, and the upcoming budget's very likely to intensify the impact of Labour's war on drivers, their anti-private mobility philosophy. So let's explore this in more detail now. Buckle up, this is Full Throttle.
Here's the great man himself.
Welcome, Howard. Good to see you once again.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. For those who haven't seen you before on the show, Howard, just give us a little bit of an explanation about your background and the circumstances that ended up pitching you into this very contentious area of transport policy.
Okay, I won't go back to my prison record, but on a serious note, no, really it was about 15 years ago. I was doing some work for a company that was a trucking company, and I just learned from the problems that the managing director had, just how much he was paying for fuel for his 50 trucks, and something like 42% of his costs at that time were for diesel. And what really made me quite, I thought, how are you running a business with, your major costs? That's not even staff costs or capital costs. That was purely putting the trucks on the road. So, yeah, I thought this is ridiculous. And then I got even more angry at the fact that 70% of of that 42% was going to the government in tax, in fuel duty and VAT. And, it's absolutely ludicrous. And, the managing director was paying corporation tax, national insurance tax, all of these taxes beyond belief, vehicle excise duty, you name it, and plus MOTs and plus, maintenance aspects of things, and plus the capital cost of running the trucks, putting on the roads. There was very much, he hardly made any profit. And that's one of the reasons I was there, to try and help him to do that. Yeah. So I asked him a simple question: who's been campaigning for truckers for all these years to try and, fight this travesty, in my opinion, of taxation on an essential resource? Yeah. And he said no one except the Road Haulage Association and the Freight Transport Association at that time. And they're now called Logistics UK, FTA. But they weren't doing very much. All they used to do at every budget was write a letter saying, please don't put up fuel duty, and I'll meet you down the pub later for a nice flash lunch. That's all they did. Yeah. So I thought we got to get on top of this, and so I asked him would he help, and he did. And I set up a campaign called FairFuelUK, and it was launched in January 2011 with the backing of the RHA, yes, and the FTA. That's the MPs, of course, when I stand outside the Treasury. That picture. Yeah. And for last. God, I've still got some hair there. I don't remember it too well, but the guy in the middle there is a guy called Robert Halfon. Yes. You can see him on his crutches, and he's just an absolute hero of mine. He has been. He took up the mantle with me, and we were the first people to get, if you remember, under Osborne and Cameron at the time. He introduced the e-petitions. Yeah. And we were the first ones to get an e-petition in Parliament, and that we got 100,000 people that signed it. And once you reach that target, you have the right, or the potential right, to have a debate in the House of Commons, which we did. Yeah. Yes. Which Robert Halfon actually got involved with. He's fantastic, he is, and you've got a few other people there. There's a guy second from the right called Jonathan Gullis. He's no longer an MP. Yes. He became APPG chair, and that's the point, really, that I managed to get an all-party parliamentary group set up. And bear in mind, this was the Tories with their relatively, and the coalition, of course. You mustn't remember Nick Clegg. Remember him?
Yes.
And he was a yes. And then we got people like Theresa May and Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak and moving on. So it was a Tory sort of a control of the APPG. We only had one Labour MP because for all party parliamentary groups, the clue's in the name. You've got to have MPs from as many parties across the site. And the only one we had was a guy called Graham Stringer, and who is a super guy. He's a bit of a petrol head, which is good. In fact, there's a lot of Labour MPs that are petrol heads, but they unfortunately adhere to the whip.
Yes.
And that whip at the moment is held by Ed Miliband. He's not a chief whip, but the point is what he says tends to go.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we managed to in that first tenure in 2011, Osborne was planning. It was all planned there for a thing called a fuel price escalator.
Yeah.
Which essentially a thing brought in by initially by the Conservatives, but very controlled by Gordon Brown. And what it was is simply that at every budget, fuel duty will go up by inflation plus a 2p or 3p. And had that been still in operation today, we'd be paying something like 50p to £1 more per litre for diesel and petrol. Yeah. And that's no joke. I suspect it wouldn't have gone up that much because I think people would have thought you couldn't have gone that way. Because you imagine we're at £1.40 for diesel now. If it was £2.40 now, our economy would be in recession. It's as simple as that. And but it would have gone up considerably more. I estimate something like 30 or 40 pence more at the level of things like Singapore and Hong Kong, where they're very expensive. But over there, but people over there can afford to pay for it. But here, there's a lot of things happened on the way, but I built up a following of signatures. People signed up of about 1.7 million, and that's last year's one. That one you're looking at, that picture there of the great people there. You can see the 1/3 from the right is a certain bionic lord.
Yes.
That's Craig McKinley, who's also a dear friend, and he unfortunately he had to have his limbs below the knee and below the elbow completely removed, and from sepsis. That's right. And you can see the pictures there of the people there, and you got right in the middle there, Esther McVeigh, who's a good friend. These are, but you can see they're all Tories. The person second to the right is Saki Batty. He was the APPG chair last year. But as per normal, what happens is, and because there's not many Tories now, they have to do shared jobs and they do shadow minister positions, and therefore they can't be chairs of the APPG. But the good news, I have got someone where it's been a bit of abeyance for about 9 months, but we've got a guy called Lewis Cocking, MP, who's MP for Broxbourne, and he's handling things. And I'll explain what's going on with them in a minute. But in essence, in that 15 years, we've managed to get a freeze in fuel duty from pressure we put on all of the chancellors, and even we managed to convince Rachel Thieves last year. Her first budget, which I really didn't expect us to keep it frozen, but she did. But it was a bit of a double-edged sword. Yes, I was happy for motorists what happened on that front, and I got a lot of congratulations, very pleased. But as one front bench Labour spokesman said to me, Howard, you've done it again, well done. But this year we went for the farmers. Next year we're going to go for the motorists. And we're now in that next year, and we're less than 3 weeks away from a winter budget, the first time there's ever been a budget this late. And it's a bit cynical, it's a bit disingenuous of them this late, but they're hoping things were going to turn around, which they haven't.
But I mean, it's like Winston Churchill said, Howard, you can't tax your way to prosperity. It's like standing in a bucket and trying to pull yourself up by the handle.
Absolutely spot on, Brian. And this woman, Rachel Rees, hasn't got a clue. And I always give a bit of, because you can't expect to be the expert in everything, but to put her in charge of our finances when she's lied on a CV, and she's even actually not done things properly in terms of being a landlord, and there's all sorts of things. These are truly dishonest politicians, and they're running our finances and every one of our, impact on our pockets and our lives. These people are truly and utterly responsible for it, and it's only going to get worse.
I promise to you,
absolutely.
And
Labour will not put up your income tax, national insurance, or VAT.
Did you notice her nose getting longer? I don't even know.
I think that was all done through AI.
Yeah. So we're in a situation now. Let's stop talking about the history of this. Let's talk about what's going forward. It's very important we do that, and I'll explain what we're doing. As I say, Lewis Cocking is actually already this week. He asked a question of the Treasury Minister. Didn't get an answer, but I wrote the question, which was simply, please. Well, it's built around our poll we've just held, and we've got around about 40,000 people completed. And it's still running, and I'd like to get up to 100,000 before before the budget. But in essence, we asked, what do you want from this budget if you're a driver or really a road user? Because cyclists actually complete the poll, and EV drivers, they complete the poll as well. They tend to be more favourable of actually, putting up fuel duty. But that we expect that. But out of about 40,000, which is the initial analysis, this is the interesting thing for me. We asked the people who took part, who did you vote for last year in the general election? And there was a lot of, obviously, Labour people who responded. And out of the Labour people that responded to my poll, 3 out of 4 said they want to see fuel duty frozen again, reduced, or even scrapped. And these are Labour voters. And so in the question to the Treasury yesterday that Lewis Cocking asked of Rachel and her gang on the front bench, he simply said, will you actually honour what these voters who have actually said to you, there he is, this guy, I simply asked, will you honour the voters who put you into government, Rachel? The Right Honourable Chancellor. Would you actually make sure that it's not increased? He didn't go for the cut or scrapping, he just increased. And of course, they didn't answer it whatsoever. They said, of course, we can't comment on tax issues until the day. Usual bullshit. But I know for a fact, and this is the point, I've got some evidence coming out of the Treasury from people I know in there. They are looking at restoring the 5p cut that Rishi Sunak gave us. And he gave us that cut because of the Russians invaded Ukraine and it put fuel prices up. And it was around the COVID time as well. Lots of issues affecting people. And he cut. And I didn't expect that. I thought it might be covered by 2 or 3p, but to go for 5p, Rishi, well done. I won't thank him for going to the polls and putting this Labour government in though. But anyway, so we got that 5p. She's going to reverse that. It's due to be reversed next March anyway, but she's going to reverse that. And I understand that the fuel price escalator is coming back. And so we're looking at probably inflation, and inflation is currently 4%. And we're looking, so that will add 2p to fuel duty, but plus a penny or two. So I reckon she's going to get close to putting it up by 10 pence.
Really?
Yeah. That's highly regressive.
Well, that's what they're Brian. That's what they're modelling, and bear in mind on top of that is VAT. That makes it 12p. So for the average family car driver, a 55, a litre car, a tank full, just multiply 12p by that. You're looking around over £6 per fill up. But worse still, for a trucker, a big 44-ton truck, it's approaching £100 more.
Yeah, and that'll just feed through in the prices. So it'll just fuel inflation, and it'll dampen down people's desire to travel. So, that dampens down economic activity, spend in shops and things like that. It's just driving the economy into the ground.
Well, I'd vote for you, Brian. I mean, that's the point, isn't it? You see, this is the whole issue. You see, what is this? Why can't they see we are still the highest tax drivers in the world for diesel?
Yeah.
But, that's still that. Petrol, we're in about the top 5 or 6 worldwide.
Yeah.
And Germany, Spain, and Portugal, and I can't think the other one and France are all anywhere for diesel between 5 to 12p less.
Yeah.
Why? And they're basket case economies now.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's worse than that, Howard, because of course they've gone for trying to basically squeeze out the refining industry in this country. Grangemouth's going. It's one of the other ones. I can't remember what it is. But we've got no refining capacity now to make diesel anyway. So we're importing it, which means, of course, inevitably it's going to be more expensive because of that.
Well, 25 years ago, if I remember right, there was about 30 refineries in this country. There's now just 7, and as you say, Grangemouth is on its way out, and a couple. So I reckon by the end of this Parliament, there'll only be 5, and they'll just be producing, what I should imagine green fuels, etc., biofuel type things. Yeah. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I can go on forever, but this is what I'm doing now in terms of campaigning. Yeah. And first of all, Lewis Cocking, I've written a letter for him, like I do every year for every person that's doing this, because the poor loves, they can't use a pen these days and do it themselves. Lewis, I'm only joking if you're watching this. We've become good mates. He's only young. He's only about 33, 34. I'm more than twice his age. But in his constituency of Broxbourne, the people there very much reliant on their car. And he's just like many other constituencies, he's also got a lot of white vanners, commercial vehicles. So, but what he's done, I've written this letter, and he's now at this very moment, as we talk, collecting signatures to be delivered to Rachel. Last year we got about 60. That's what Saki Bhatti achieved last year. There are 128, I think, Tory MPs. I want them all to bloody sign it. Graham Stringer will sign it. Sammy Wilson of the DUP, who's a good friend, he's going to sign it. I think James McMurdoch and Rupert Lowe will sign it too, because they're not in the Reform Party anymore. And but I stood for reform, as London Mayor, and I also stood for reform. Oh God, that picture. Oh dear. But I'm not in reform either, and I can't imagine. Nigel and I have had a big fallout because of my support for Tommy Robinson, and it's a shame because. One of the reasons why Nigel and I hit it off is that I wrote his transport policies for his the European elections in 2015. Yeah, and yes, be with Tommy. Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, this last thing they tried to have him on. He's been exonerated, hasn't he? He was found not guilty of supposed terrorism.
Well, I was at that court case, all of them, for the 2 days of court case and the verdict on Tuesday. And he's been persecuted. Well, you don't have to like Tommy. You don't have to worry about his background. But this guy has actually highlighted for years and years as a journalist these child rape gang issues, right across the country. And he doesn't hold back on the things. So why is he being persecuted? And Nigel and him fell out a long time ago, even though Tommy actually in last year's general election recommended people to vote reform. Yeah, and that's how he's paid by this nastiness. And Rupert Lowe's a dear friend. Rupert Lowe is the only person that turned up to when I put my voting slip in to vote for myself in the London mayoral election. There was no one from Reform headquarters there with cameras. No one turned up. You'd think major position that was going for then, stopping ULEZ and all the other things I was going for. And the only person that did turn up was Rupert Lowe. Yeah. And he's become a dear friend. And I know he's fell out. And you saw what Reform did to him by calling he had dementia and it threatened him. The fact he hasn't got dementia, by the way. No. And Zia Youssef accusing him of being abusive. And, that's a good. Rupert's a great guy. I mean, he's a businessman, was chairman of the Southampton Football Club. And he's now running a thing called Restore Britain, which is a movement. And a lot of people, because I'm now with Advance UK with Ben Habib. Yes. And doing a lot of work. I'm on what's called their electoral college, their policy college. But a lot of people are saying, why isn't Rupert actually joined Advance UK? And there's a simple reason. I think he will eventually. But what it is that he stood as reform. He became MP as a reform candidate. Now he's independent. And if he moves to Advance UK, his constituents might say, hang on a second, which party, who are you? He's got to do that. And he's also running a thing called Restore Britain, which is like a policy think tank trying to get cross-party agreement for policies, and he's the only one that's actually doing a true investigation into these child rape gangs. And he's also a quite a wealthy man. He doesn't take his salary, as an MP, and he's a big farmer. He's got a great farm as well, and he understands it, and he's going to be pushing very hard for me in Parliament, and he's all of his followers to support Fairfuel UK and this cutting fuel issue. So
the problem with Tommy Robinson really is that he's been like a festering wound for the government, because he's been pointing out something that they have not been addressing for 3 decades, and they've been trying to bury it. Super.
That's Unite the Kingdom rally. If you remember, Tommy, because there's 2 things I should mention. I actually visited Tommy in prison, because Reform threatened me with expulsion if I continued to support Tommy. And bear in mind, I've stood as London Mayor, and I stood down in Dover and got 24%. I came second, beat the Tories into third. Had we only had 3.5 weeks campaign, if we'd had a couple of months down there, I think I might have nicked it. But having said that, I'm quite glad I didn't, because I don't want anything to do with Reform, which is sad, because obviously a lot of their policies I agreed with, and one of them, of which I was knocking on doors down in Dover, talking about the fact that you don't pay tax till £20,000. That was the idea. Instead of starting at 12.5, we'd move it to 20,000. I was telling everyone that, but this week Nigel and Richard Tice dropped it. It's just now an aspiration, and it's sad. And but I'm working very closely with people like Ben Habib, and there's a lot of people, and I'm part of a thing called a college. And this college contains a lot of critical thinkers. And you guys, if you joined it and you could apply to go in the college, you can formulate policy. But the most important thing about the college is that we hold the leader, in this case is Ben Habib, to account. If he doesn't come up to scratch, we get rid of him. You can't do that in the Reform Party, because that's run by 2 dictators, Nigel and Zia Youssef. It is a dictatorship, and and they've been throwing loads of branch chairmen around the country under the bus, which is it is so sad. Anyway, this letter's being written, Lewis Cocking, which is going to obviously Rachel Reeves, and we're trying to get as many people to sign it. I estimate we get about 70 MPs. It's a shame we can't get all 128. It's only honestly, it's logistics of getting people together, believe it or not. So there's that thing. I'm also holding a walking reception, which, Brian, I think you've been to some in the past with me. Which heaven knows how many people come to this one, because we're swamped by Labour, Lib Dems, and the Greens and independent. There's not many people, but that I'll give you the dates in a minute.
Okay.
It's a walk-in reception for MPs to come in and sign a document, which is either do you support cutting fuel, keeping it frozen, or increasing it. We just get a list. Usual thing. But I do it mainly because people like the Daily Mail and the Sun and the Telegraph and the Times, they'll come along to that. And I think TV News and Talk TV will be there as well. But so there's that. That's giving more coverage and more awareness. I'll be delivering a petition of around about 150,000 to 10 Downing Street with MPs. You've seen the pictures you've shown already of the ones up to 25. So
in the past.
Again, I don't know how many people are going to be there because Labour will probably be whipped to not have anything to do with Fairfuel UK. And I'm sure that will happen. But that story in itself, you see, that proves that Labour people, are not supporting drivers. 37 million drivers in this country. We all know that Labour don't support farmers, they don't support pensioners or small business. So that just add motorists to that.
And middle income earners or low earners, they don't really seem to support anybody, I'm afraid. Who is their constituency is the question I would ask them. That it seems to be that they're looking to squeeze every drop of income out of voters. It's pathological. This hatred of rich people, hatred of middle income people, hatred of low income people. I just don't understand it at all, and it's counterproductive. I mean, you must have seen the thing with Arthur Laffer. Basically, we're over the peak of the Laffer curve, and we're on the other side. Everything that she does actually reduces the revenue when we're in this position. It doesn't improve it.
Well, you've actually just reminded me, because I went to the launch. I was invited by the ex-chair of the CEBR to a launch of a thing called Prosperity Through Growth, this book, right?
Yeah.
And guess who the first...
Yeah, Arthur Laffer. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I met him, had a chat with him, and he's really a lovely guy. I mean, he's actually down to earth. So I learned a lot from him that day. But so I'll give you some of these dates if you want, or should I? Do you want these?
Well, why don't do it now, because they'll be on the program. Then people will know about them, won't they?
Yep.
Okay. Well, the walk-in reception is on the 17th of November. Okay, in Portcullis House.
Right.
At between 5 and 7 p.m. So it's a late one. It's just a couple of hours.
Yeah.
17th of November, Portcullis House, 5 to 7 p.m.
Yeah.
I think it's room P as well. It's just of Portcullis House. So.
Yeah.
And this one, the petition where I'm delivering signatures to number 1011 Downing Street, is at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. on the 18th of November. So that's the week before the budget.
But the two days, one after the other.
Yeah, so I tried to get them on the same day, but we couldn't do it. As usual, you just have to go with what they're doing. But but if you guys or any of you guys watching this want to come with me, I can take 4 or 5 sort of commoners. Us low life.
I might even wear this shirt.
I know my place.
But I will need. I mean, it'd be quite nice to have something from the ABD. I think it'd be great to come along but I will need your home address, your date of birth, your inside leg measurement, and all those sorts of
blood group.
But if you could nominate who it is, then I can approach them, and I can pass it on to this. And we can go. It's quite nice to have a photograph, and the sun, covered us well last year. Yeah. And so if you pass that around.
Yeah. Okay.
So the other thing also, of course, is that I'm going to, in the next week, I'll be giving out more to do with the poll I've done. And there's a lot of things in the poll. We ask questions. I don't know if you've completed it, but one of the questions.
Yes, I did it. Yeah.
One of the questions you asked is, what do you think of Starmer, Rachel Reed, Heather Alexander, and Ed Miliband, and in a rating scale from 1 shit all the way to 5 to brilliant. Whereas you can appreciate, there's a pile of it building up of ones.
Yeah. So I plugged in, and yes, that my return, and there was a bit at the bottom to express your views. Mine went on for quite a long time. I think I nearly used up all the words, and it wasn't complimentary, I'm afraid.
I can't believe that.
Not complimentary to you, but not complimentary to the government.
Have people still got a chance to fill this in, or is it finished?
Yes, if they go to my website, FairFuelUK.com, FairFuelUK, there's 2 things on there at the moment. One is absolutely the poll, but the most important thing to do on that is to actually ask your MP using a technique to actually say cut fuel duty. I normally get, and this is the nice thing about having, bear in mind with 1.7 million people that signed up, that means there's over 2,000 people in each constituency that support Fair Fuel UK, and there it is. There's 2 things, the main bit with poor old tearful Rachel there, you can see, is to click here to ask your MP to keep fuel duty frozen. It's very, very simple. You just put your postcode in, and then the letter's already there for you to send it. But if you want to put your own style in it or add anything to it, you can. It is moderated to some extent in case someone is abusive and swearing. So if the content of my standard template is changed, I'm notified so I can read it first before we send it off. But in the main, 99 times out of 100, those changes, they go through no problem.
Yeah.
And Paul, as you can see at the bottom, is take part in our budget opinion poll. So both things there. There. All right.
Yeah.
So my MP's already had that template letter. Matt Vickers, and he has replied.
Oh, great. In fact, he's a good lad, Matt, because he's all right.
Yeah. Well, he lives just on the road from me, so it's quite convenient.
So there's a couple of other things, of course, is this thing that's come out today about pay per mile for electric vehicles. I'm not cheering for the rooftops for that because I think it's a thin end of the wedge.
Yes.
Getting still, or where we're going. But I'm pleased that they recognise that it's not good for electric vehicle drivers at all. That they're going to pay something to use our bloody roads. And
absolutely.
Bloody time.
It's also particularly bad for black cab drivers in London because a lot of those have gone over to either fully electrical or hybrid. And somebody was talking on Talk Radio earlier when I was coming back from the opticians about it. So it's are these targeted? Are these deliberately targeted at groups like this, where it's just an actual benefit to them to get other EV drivers involved as well? But
for me, they don't need to use pay per mile because all these smart chargers they have now, you can just set them up so that when you plug your electric vehicle in, the charger recognizes it's an electric vehicle, and when it refills the battery, it charges in terms of money the cost of recharging at a commensurate rate with filling up a petrol or diesel car. Then you don't need pay per mile. You just charge them a similar price as if they were going to fill it with petrol or diesel because it's a smart system. So
how do they propose to monitor it anyway? We're looking at like a little black box.
People are going to have to fill in paper declarations or something, or estimate what mileage they're going to do, and then at the end they'll either get they're not getting a rebate. It runs over into the next year if they're under, and if it's over, they have to pay a top up.
Right.
Well, it's a bit like it's a bit like having a sort of a direct debit with the electricity company.
Yeah.
So you're in credit for 20 quid, or you've got to pay more. We're going to increase your standing charges. The thing about this is that they're clutching at straws. This is it. They don't know. The fuel duty I said to you about, it could go up by a lot. I'll say quite publicly here now, and I don't want Rachel Rees to hear this.
Quick,
I believe by the time we finished it with them, with what we're going to do with the petition, but most importantly, people, and you must get every single ABD and their friends, their family, their colleagues to actually complete this thing, to contact their MP. I think the pressure on them, I think it'd be kept frozen again, and that it'd be absolute madness considering she's considering increasing income tax, and they're talking about doing some wealth taxes and things like that. They can't throw 6 increased taxes. I just don't think they can do that. And I think, I think she will leave it to the end and say, well, I'm pleased to say I'm keeping fuel duty frozen, but I may be completely wrong. I don't know. I didn't expect it last year. And this year I'm more optimistic, even though I'm actually telling people I'm hearing about the 10p. I'm writing articles for papers and things now and about this. And that's the interesting thing. One of the things that is a bit sad is GB News and The Sun. For some reason or another, because I'm now with Advance UK, they're not using me as much as they used to. They're not ignoring. It's irrelevant. My political. I could be bloody a communist. It doesn't matter. I'm fighting on behalf of the motorists, and that's what we do. God, that's going back 2020
years. But I mean, this is absolutely true, and it's like Arthur Laffer was saying. If you want to get into a profitable situation, then you cut taxes. You don't raise them. And certainly not when the economy's going down the toilet. You need to actually cut taxes and cut expenditure. And it's painful, but it's the only way.
Well, the most important thing about this is you keep hearing her saying that we're going to go for growth. This is what we're going to go for growth. And I love this. And she says we're going to keep inflation, low and all that sort of interest rates low and all that sort of thing. Well, you don't do it by putting up taxes, as you quite rightly say, Brian. And the thing about this is that, as you know, when we hear the television, when inflation figures come out each month, the next sentence from the commentator is, it's because pump prices went up or pump prices went down. It's always about 3 or 4 things, or the basket of fresh foods. There's 3 or 4 little things, but invariably pump prices are in there. And at the moment, the other big thing for me is the PumpWatch, which I created with Claire Coutinho last year. is still not being adopted by the Labour government, because at the moment I've worked out that petrol is around about 5 to 6p more than it should be, and diesel is about 9p more than it should be.
Yes, yeah.
If they actually, put teeth on the PumpWatch idea, legislative teeth, which is what I'm calling. Yes. I thought Labour were jumping all over that like a rash. Going for the big oil companies and the fuel supply chain, the retailers. Not so much the retailers, because most of the independent retailers are tied so much to further up the fuel supply chain. They can't. They don't have control over prices. They have to do that. But that's another thing. So we're looking at all those things, and you're absolutely right, Paul and Brian. It's great to talk to you about this. Is that simple? Oh God, that's another one going back a long way. God, would you buy a used car off of that man? No.
Maybe if he smiled.
That's what I mentioned to my wife, Jenny.
He'd just seen the cost of the fuel.
Look, that one. I just showed my wife that picture again. She said, "Oh God, did I really marry? Did I really marry that?" Anyway, yeah. But the thing is, the whole thing is, and I'm going to say it. I want the Chancellor to have the balls, metaphorically speaking, to actually, hey, I'm going to cut fuel duty for 6 months and see what happens.
Yeah.
Right? 10, 20p off of it. That will put, someone filling up regular. One is people will go and see their family more, not be restricted going to hospitals or education, all that. But more importantly, they'd have probably about 10p a week, £10 a week more in their pockets. Yeah. What would they do with it? They'd spend it.
Yeah.
And, or pay off some debt or something like that. But it will go into businesses and companies who, therefore, you quite rightly say, they would therefore invest in jobs, in new kit, all that sort of thing, and training, you name it, and also have more over because they have more profit. And guess what? They get more corporation tax at the Treasury. I just don't get it because, and I've said this millions of times. I'm sorry, I'm ranting a bit here, but what I do always say is that the MPs I've met on the back benches agree totally. Absolutely agree totally. As soon as they walk across to become on the cabinet, they lose all sense of reality. And they're tied totally to an idealistic approach to, and of course, we haven't even mentioned a little bit about Ed Miliband and what net zero is going to do to us and the 2030 ban and all those sorts of things. So I'm working my butt off, like with you guys, and we've written some great reports, or you have done some great reports and things. We've done the CBR. You've been very kind to finance some of the things of that sort. You should take credit for things like fuel duty and things like that. You shouldn't. It's not just FairFuelUK. I'd like to thank the ABDs for their support over the years. I've known you for about 300 years. I feel as though
it feels like it now, Howard. Not in a bad way.
No, I know that it's not that, but it's interesting. It's like when you spoke at the London, City Hall Assembly. Well done on that. Great stuff. But it was quite nice because I was surprised I was invited because, as you know, it's reformers there inviting me. But I was welcomed with open arms by people, there, and I was quite chuffed. I would like to have said something, but I think that's pushing it too far.
Probably would have been difficult for Alex Wilson and.
No, he said privately. He said, "Thanks again for getting me in. I got him elected." But anyway, the most important thing, which I won't give out the results of the part of the poll, I said, which political party best supports the motorist? And it'd be interesting if you ask people on here what it is. And obviously, I don't think it'd take much thing that Labour don't, but nor the Greens, nor the Lib Dems.
I think that's the huge problem, Howard. It's the green blob is so pervasive, and there's arguably we don't know what reform will do, but there's more of a chance of getting something approaching a fair crack of the whip based on what their policy announcements are than with the others, because as Galloway said, it's very difficult to shove a cigarette paper between the cheeks of the multiple cheeks of the same bottom, shall I say.
Well, that's absolutely right. I mean, I wrote it in their contract with the people, it's pseudo manifesto. Last year, we had a 20p cut in fuel duty. Now that's gone quiet. They're not saying anything.
That would be a massive boost to the economy, because everything really, realistically, moves around by roads in terms of goods and services. Even if it goes part of the way by rail, there's always going to be a truck at the other end to take it from wherever railhead it's delivered to where it's going to end up. So putting up fuel prices just strangles the economy, and bringing them down does the opposite.
Well, that's what I'm going to be calling for in various interviews and films I'm doing. I'm going to say to Rachel, why not give it a try?
Yeah.
Why not say, let's go for 10 pence cut in fuel duty for 6 months.
Yeah, see what happens.
Starting from March next year, for the whole of the summer, for people to do that and see what happens to the economy.
Yeah.
You've already got declining fuel duty revenues coming in. That's falling anyway. So, okay, it's going to fall a bit more. But the short-term hit is worth the long-term gain.
Yes.
And that's the thing. I mean, the CBR proved that. They've said, yes, the short term, you'll get some money in. But after 5 years, the revenues from motorists, in terms of fuel duty, will fall by 60%. So, and where's it coming from? It's not going to come from electric vehicle drivers because the grid can't cope. We're not going to have that. The 2030 ban's got to be moved completely. I want it dropped. But at least take it to 2035 or 2040.
Yeah, and of course the other thing that's going on in parallel, Howard, is that the European manufacturers are being strangled out of existence by the Chinese.
Yes.
And they're doing deals now. Some of the manufacturers with the Chinese to actually buy like emissions credits. It's like what were they called? When the church used to you would pay them money and they would give you I've forgotten the name, but basically an indulgence. So it's like an indulgence. But actually, if the European manufacturers were clever about this, they would buy indulgences and just sell more and more internal combustion engine vehicles, having bought the indulgences to balance up the supposed figures. And they could drive the Chinese out of existence because they're not making money on these vehicles. So make them sell more and more and concentrate on selling high value in internal combustion engine vehicles that manufactured here in Europe. That's what I think we should do.
Well, you're dead right. But, our manufacturing, we haven't got many left, but the manufacturing right across Europe, they're struggling. BMW is struggling. Mercedes is struggling. VW is struggling. Renault is struggling. All these big names. I mean, you got BYD growing like mad. This sort of thing. Guess why? But the thing is, I just, my wife and I regularly sit down. How can they not see this? The government. I want to, restore all the licenses for North Sea oil and gas. Get us, things like that. Look at fracking. It may be a bit of a danger in certain areas, but test it first. Don't just respond to a tree hugger. The guys, these people. I'm sick to death of this. And the comment. I mean, I'm as I said, I think I said on the last time. I'm glad I'm over 70 now because I wouldn't want to come back into this world at the moment the way it is. And it's sad that way, but we're still fighting, aren't we, guys? And
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the point that you made, Howard, about oil and gas in the North Sea is that would secure energy prices and energy security, because we're so reliant now on imports of liquefied natural gas, interconnectors. We're importing more and more, and of course, renewables are intermittent. They're totally reliably unreliable, and so, in many ways, we'd be better to reduce our renewables content and renewables contribution and rely on sound dispatchable, which is, of course, nuclear, which we're dragging our heels on, combined cycle gas turbine, which, of course, we need North Sea oil and gas. And the other thing that they never bring up is we've got about 6,000 products that we'll rely on, particularly medical products now for daily life, that if we stop using crude oil, those things won't exist, and we'll actually be on a slide backwards into sort of Middle Ages conditions rather than the modern kind of economy that we're used to, and people don't seem to understand that.
Well, this is the problem, and thank heavens, and I hope it continues. But we've got Donald Trump still, basically switched off net zero. He's left that completely. And I just hope that JD Vance wins in 2020, whether it is 28 or whatever it is, he comes around. Because with last, what we want is a socialist world. Because it's fascinating to see Bill Gates actually now turning round and saying, about net zero. He's actually saying, it's not quite right. But the thing is, it's our government, and Ed Miliband is just absolutely myopic beyond belief. I'm convinced there must be something. He must be getting money from someone or something to keep this going, because anyone with half a common sense, he's a one big amoeba with one cell in his brain to understand that, we got to, this whole thing, we'll reduce your bills by 300 quid a year. It's gone up by 290.
Yeah.
So the net difference of what they think to what it is around about 600 quid we're paying.
Yeah. And then it'll continue. The more renewables that we bring on, the more unreliable the grid will become, and the more expensive it becomes. So
absolutely right. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, I think the one thing that stands out for me is that for many, many years, certainly all of my lifetime, and probably the same for both of you guys too, it's always been a two-party system. And I think that the Reds and the Blues have been more than happy to pass the baton from each other, because if they're not in power, they're in opposition. So they've got a very nicely paid job, and it all's well in the world. They really do not know what to do now that there's more than two parties vying for power. And this is why politics for me, albeit by mouth, but also by protest as well, has become way more passionate and aggressive. And I don't think anybody's benefiting from that. We're almost being dragged mentally to the Stone Age. And certainly if all this, all these the renewables go through, well, then you may as well definitely go to the Stone Age, because we're basically bankrupting a small island that is producing a tiny part of what they deem to be a problem. And we all know that through the science that we've studied, that it's not the problem that people make it out to be. And we're just going to become the laughingstock, not only of Europe, but of the world, because these countries are not on board with this same agenda. No. It's crazy.
Well, I'm working quite closely with, Paul Burgess.
Yes.
Yeah, Burgess, he's on the Advanced UK College, and this is not. I'm not promoting Advanced UK on here. I don't want to do that because I'm FairFuelUK. The only thing I would say is for people to actually just have a look at Advanced UK website. Just have a look at it and just read it. You don't have to join or anything like that, but I would recommend people take a good look at Advanced UK. Ben Habib, there's a nice picture of him, that he felt he was thrown under the bus. He stood in Wellingborough twice for reform, and after the general election, as soon as he came on the general election, Nigel declared himself as leader. He just walked in and said, "I'll be leader." I've now got £200,000 given to me by Zia Youssef, like that. And Ben, at that point, was deputy leader under Richard Tice.
Yes.
But all he did, Nigel, said, "Right, you're not leader. I'm leader now." No one voted him for him. No one voted for Nigel. I mean, he will probably win it. The leadership. I'm not saying that, because there's no one. There's probably the most incredible orator and communicator. Nigel Farage. There's no one to touch him. Yeah. But Ben Habib is the most honest person possible, and he set up Advanced UK. We've got 40,000 paid members in the space of 17 weeks. It's the fastest growing political party in this country ever, even faster than Reform. But the thing he set up is this college, and this college is full of very bright people. Very, okay, I'm on it. I may be letting it down a bit, but I'm on the net zero thing with Paul Burgess, and I'm on the transport for obvious reasons. Like that. I'm also on the crime one because I learned a lot when I stood for London Mayor about the crime and what's going on. So those three little panels. But what the whole of the college, if Ben is not delivering the right parts for Advanced UK and it's ground up, it's it's going to be not top down. If it doesn't deliver the things that we want delivered, we get rid of it. And I can promise you that. And he's the most democratic and honest person I've ever met in my life. He's well off. He doesn't have to do this. Anyway, I said I wouldn't do an advert, but it's worth people who's watched this. Just have a look at Advanced UK.
Well, this is it.
One question I'd ask Howard is, and I believe that this should be the case of all political parties in this country. If you have a manifesto, then that manifesto is locked in. So when you go into the election, you can't start tinkering with it and making changes, because this is what you contracted to do. And if you step outside that, you've broken the contract. So you have to call a snap election and let the people decide.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I couldn't agree more with you. There's my girl Penny Mordaunt. And the girl with the sword.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. I went to her book launch this week, because I know there's a lot of people talk about Penny because she was friends with Bill Gates. Bill Gates wrote it forward for one of her books, or the other way around. She's LGBT thing, and she's a bit involved with WEF. Well, they are myths. They are all wrong, because I know her very well. She's a close friend, and I went to a book launch with a guy called Chris Lewis, who's a big PR guy and everything like that. And they've written a book called Pomp and Circumstance. Yeah. And this book, Pomp and Circumstance, is simply looking at why English culture, English values, English history is so important to her going forward. And we must be optimistic. And I've read a third of it already, and I feel so optimistic. It makes me feel proud, of the fact that I am British, but we're being let down by people.
But they've been running us down and trying to make us run ourselves down for decades now. And it's been me for ages.
These politicians hate England, hate UK. It's as simple as that. Why else would you be doing that? And
we buy them a one-way ticket to North Korea.
That's how they like.
I'm not joking. I'm bloody serious. I would put them on a plane to North Korea and say, find your way back, and if you do, we still won't let you in.
See if you like globalism there. Yeah.
I'd like to say a big congratulations to Charlotte, how she's finding these pictures so quickly. Well, I'm very impressed, love. That's incredible. I mean, there you are. But as I say, Penny, I'm close to a lot of people. When people like Esther McVeigh, for example, she's very keen. And one of my big close friends, and she's only 4'0" nothing, and that's Priti Patel. And sorry, Priti, if you heard that, I apologise. but she's trying to arrange for me to have a photo opportunity with Kemi Benedott. And because I said it's in the interest of the Tory party to stand with me to say you support the motorist.
Yes, absolutely, and traditionally they were, because they were the party that supported self-reliance and prosperity and growth. Yeah. But they seem to have lost the thread in recent decades, and they need to find it again.
Well, the clock's nearly beaten us, so just one last question, Howard, and keep it brief. Based on the survey results that you've got, what do you think the majority of the UK road users are actually looking for from the government's upcoming budget?
They obviously want at least fuel duty to be frozen, at least. Yeah. Everyone idealistic wants a cut or even scrapped. I mean, something like 14% want it completely scrapped. Yeah. And that's mainly the right-wing parties. And I hate using labels like right-wing, but the more conservative type people. But the other thing also, they want less net zero policies being used as an excuse to hit the motorists in the pocket. And they want some honesty from things. And what you said, Brian, earlier about the gas and electric and North Sea, let's face it, that Norway is making billions and trillions out of the same fields we could be
and selling it back to us.
But this is what we could be doing. We could be producing probably more than we need, and we can sell some stuff.
Spot on, Paul. Yeah, so the feeling, though, generally, though, I'm not giving too much away, which I'm embargoing it in my head for a moment, but the essence is there's never been so much disappointment in a government ever.
Oh, no.
I mean, we believe that, but the buyer's remorse of a lot of the Labour people, they just cannot believe how let down. And the worst thing about it is the dishonesty and the lies.
Yes.
That's the thing that's coming across. You've written this, as you said, you used all your words up. I'm getting loads of people saying, using Anglo-Saxon expletives but the biggest thing, they're saying that they're unbelievable. The lies, they can't handle the lies.
Yes.
I mean, if someone said, I'm putting up fuel duty by 10 pence because we're going to build 70 new hospitals, you could actually say, okay, provided it happens.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, the hypothecation of taxes. They aren't hypothecated, they go everywhere.
Yeah.
And the other thing also, which is coming, you're going to love this. They want cyclists to pay to use the roads.
Yay!
They're going to have to find a way of actually having cyclist registration to be able to do that, of course.
Well, there's got to be problems of trying to do it, but it's interesting that people are getting fed up, especially in major urban conurbations where they just don't red light. What's a red light? That doesn't mean anything. What's a
absolutely, yeah. You can see all the videos coming out of London. And the other thing, of course, is all the cycle lanes that basically just cram all the traffic into one lane, and no cyclists are actually using them. You know, the Park Lane one is a perfect example.
We've been down this before many times over the years and things. But you asked Paul, what's the feeling about it? It's disappointment massively in this government for the lies, and please stop hitting the motorists so hard and using them as easy cash cows. That's the sum.
Yeah. Howard, thank you very much. Yeah,
as usual. Thanks for your time.
We'll see you again sometime.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thank you for your time.
All right. Cheers, Howard.